Hi everyone, Chris here with another live video, and today we're going to focus on grammar. Sorry I'm a little bit late, I think I'm 10 minutes late. I was just having my lunch. I already have an excuse about why I'm late. I just was eating soup. It's my only excuse really. So what we're going to do today is, I've been asked a couple of times, can I do a video on grammar? So yes, we'll do one today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare what students think they should be doing with grammar and what students focus on, and what examiners think you should be doing, and what examiners look for and what examiners focus on. Because they're two completely different things. And this is going to really help you get inside the mind of the examiner, and that's what you really need to do. In order to do well in the IELTS test, you need to understand how the examiner is going to correct your essay, so then you know what to focus on and you know what to do. So okay, so what we're going to do is first we're going to run through a student's perspective, and then we're going to look at an examiner's perspective, and that's going to help you compare the two and see where you're going wrong. And then we're going to just give you some advice about speaking and how to improve that. So the first thing from a student's perspective is when they're thinking about grammar, they're thinking about range of grammar quite a lot. So I've spoken to a number of students who tell me that what you should be doing in the writing test and the speaking test is using a very wide range of grammar. So a wide range of structures and a wide range of tenses and things like that. So what these students do is they go into the test and they think, okay, right, I'm going to have to use the third conditional, the second conditional, the first conditional, all these different types of grammar structures. And what they do is they go in and they insert them into their writing. Now, can anyone see the problem with that approach? If you can't see the problem with that approach, then you have a big problem. The problem with that approach is you're not answering the question. You're just using grammar structures. You're not actually answering the question. You're just going in and trying to use as many grammar structures and as many tenses as possible. So that is a big mistake. And we'll talk about why that is a mistake and what you can do to improve that in a minute. The other thing is students trying to sound impressive. So in the speaking test or the writing test, using grammar that they think is complex, complicated, impressive, things like that. Again, if you can't see the problem with that, you have serious issues. Trying to sound impressive, trying to use overly complex grammar is a very big mistake. Why is it a big mistake? Because A, you're probably not answering the question clearly and simply. You're focusing more on sounding impressive than actually answering the question. And B, you're probably not capable of using that impressive grammar. And it's not impressive, that's the thing about it. The other thing that students do with grammar is they tend to try to copy grammar. So I've had a number of requests from students who say, can you just tell me the grammar structures to use throughout an essay? So for task 2, just say, tell me the exact grammar structure to use here. Then the sentence number 2, tell me the exact grammar structure to use. Number 3, tell me the exact grammar structure to use. Okay, so if I did that, what would happen? The thing that would happen would be you would have no flexibility in what you were trying to do in your actual essay. So every essay is different. Every task 2 essay is different. Every task 1 is completely different. So for task 1, you couldn't do this at all. And for task 2, you could do it a little bit. But what it would do is it would stop you using any sort of flexibility in your grammar, and all you would be doing is just regurgitating grammar structures. You wouldn't actually be answering the question. So what lots of students do is they take lots of what they think are band 9 answers, and they look at the grammar, and they just copy that grammar, and then insert it into their own essays. Again, a terrible idea, and that is not going to really work. The final thing that students do, similar to the copying the structures in the grammar, is they look for formulas. So they look for, I remember when I was teaching in Ho Chi Minh City, a teacher set up his own school, and how he taught IELTS writing was he taught it like a formula, like a mathematical formula. So it was like, start your essay with like noun plus verb plus preposition plus, like the whole essay was like that. And I laughed at them and thought it was a terrible idea, but I was shocked that they were queued out the door. Like, so many people wanted to use this formula. Why? Because it's a shortcut. It's easy. Is it effective? No, not at all. Again, you're not actually answering the question. You're using a grammar formula, which is a terrible idea. And also, if you just memorize the formula, do you think you're actually improving your writing? Probably not. Your writing is actually going to get worse because you're not actually learning anything about writing. So that would be the fourth thing that students do. So from a student's perspective, how do they focus on there? They focus on a wide range, they focus on sounding impressive, they focus on copying other grammar structures, and they think that they can get some sort of formula. They think they can just copy stuff, and that they can use a rigid structure, and that this will help them with writing. So if this did help people with writing, then you wouldn't need people like me, and it would just, everything would be fine. Unfortunately, none of them actually work. And so what you need to do is you need to think about grammar from the perspective of the examiner. Okay. So let's think about a few things that the examiner thinks about when they look at your task 1 essay, task 2 essay, or they're listening to what you're trying to say. Let's focus more on writing, because these issues don't tend to come up so much in speaking. But the first thing the examiner is going to do is when they read your essay is, can I understand this? So first thing they're just going to do is they're going to read through it and think, do I understand what the student is saying? If the examiner cannot understand what you're saying because your grammar errors are so serious, then you're going to get a band 5 or below. You cannot get over a band 5 if even some of your sentences, the examiner just has no idea what you're saying. So where does this come from? Does this come from the student having terrible grammar? Probably not. In most circumstances, the examiner cannot understand what you're writing about. Either A, because you're trying to use complex or complicated or impressive grammar that isn't impressive at all, or B, you're using some sort of formula and you're not actually clearly answering the question. And when that happens, students produce this type of writing that is just, there's no way that you can understand it. You don't even know what the person is trying to say. The examiner would not even be able to correct it because they don't even know what it is. And I see this quite a lot. Not so much in IELTS Writing Academy, sometimes in IELTS Writing Academy, but when I'm marking other students' work, this happens quite a lot. There'll be a sentence or a paragraph or a few sentences that you just look at it, I have no idea what they're trying to say. So first thing you need to do is make sure what you're writing actually makes sense. Like, if you read something and you don't understand what it means, how do you think someone else who doesn't even know you is going to understand what it means? And it's also about not overcomplicating and keeping it very, very simple. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the second thing that the examiner is going to look at, so say there is a band 6, band 7 essay, and the examiner can understand, in general, they can understand every sentence, but there are a lot of mistakes. So what is the examiner going to do? The examiner is going to look at how many sentences you have with no grammar mistakes, and that is going to allow them to judge whether you are, one of the things that they will allow them to judge whether you're band 6, 7, 8, 9. Band 6 essays, most of the sentences will have grammar errors in them. Band 7, around 50% or more of the sentences will not have any grammar errors. Band 8, band 9, very few of the sentences will have any grammar errors. Band 8, band 9, most of the sentences will have 0 grammar errors. So that's something that you need to think about. Are you writing perfect sentences? That's what your goal needs to be. So if you're trying to use these really overcomplicated sentences that you don't really know what you're doing, do you think that they're going to be perfect? Highly unlikely. So if you're looking for a band 7 or above, at least half of your sentences must be grammatically perfect. That's the standard that you need to hit. Until you do that, you're not going to get over a 7. So that's something that the examiner is thinking about, and you obviously need to think about that. So look about what you can do about that in a minute. They're not looking for range as much as you think they are. So why are the examiners not looking for range? So lots of people think that the examiner is going to think, oh, the student used the third conditional here. That's amazing. They're going to get a band 8. Or the examiner is going to look and say, oh, they used the past perfect properly, and they used some future forms here. Excellent. That's all. This person is a band 7 or a band 8. If that was the case, then all you would have to do is just memorize grammar structures, complicated grammar structures, insert them into your essay, and you would get a band 7. However, that's not how the IELTS test works. So the other reason, and the main reason why they're not looking for range, is if you write an essay and you do all of the different things you need to do in an essay, you're going to use a wide range anyway. So if you think about the different things you're going to have to do, you're going to have to paraphrase, give your opinion, outline your main ideas, give topic sentences, explain your ideas, compare and contrast things, give examples, summarize your ideas. That is a range of grammar. You have to use a range of grammatical structures to do all of those things. So if the examiner looks at your essay and everything is very easy to understand, you've done all of those things, you automatically are getting a high mark for range of grammar, because if you don't have a range of grammar, you can't do those things. Same in the speaking test. So in the speaking test, the examiner is actually going to ask you different types of questions that will encourage you to use different grammar structures. So they will ask you your opinion. They'll ask you to discuss other people's opinion. They'll ask you to discuss a hypothetical situation. They'll ask you to talk about the past, the present, the future. They'll ask you to compare things, to contrast things. All of these different questions are designed so that you will be able to show them that you can use different grammar structures. So the examiner doesn't even have to think about, is this person using a range of different grammar? Like I've seen teachers in different schools, like teaching students memorized part 1 answers for do you work or do you study, tell me about your hometown, and they get students to memorize these answers that have all this complicated grammar in them. So even if you memorize that and you give the examiner all this complicated grammar in part 1, they're going to ask you a more complicated question in part 3, and it will be very, very obvious that you don't know how to use that grammar. So be wary of that. One thing the examiners will be looking for are a range of both simple and complex sentences. Obviously, the higher up the bands you go, the more complex sentences you have. Complex just means more than one clause. So a bands 5 or 6 will have mostly simple sentences in them. Band 7, 8, 9 will have mostly complex sentences in them. But that doesn't mean that every single sentence needs to be complex. If you're say giving your opinion or writing a topic sentence, that might either be a simple or just a compound sentence. You don't need to have it any more complicated than that. So they will be looking for complex sentences, but not every sentence doesn't need to be complex. Okay, so now that you know what students mostly focus on and how different those things are to what examiners focus on, now we can think about what can you do and what can you do to improve your grammar. So the first thing is stop overcomplicating things. Stop trying to write in a really complex, high-level way. That is either going to lead to mistakes or it's going to lead to an essay that just means nothing. The examiner can't understand anything you say. And one thing I'd say about writing is what writing does is it shows the reader how you think. So what you write down on a piece of paper is a very clear indication of how your mind works, how you think about things. So if everything's really difficult to understand, then the way you think about things is very scattered and very confused. But if you write things in a very simple, straightforward way, that's an indication that this person is a very clear, logical thinker. So think about your writing in terms of that way, and think about your grammar in terms of that way. So the grammar should be easy to understand, should be as simple as it can be, and should carry out a function. So if you are comparing two things, what grammar are you going to use? You're going to use a comparative, this is better than this, or this is lesser than this. If you're talking in the speaking test, if they ask you a hypothetical question, if you were here, what would you do? What grammar are you going to use? You're going to be using a conditional sentence. If they ask you what's your opinion on this, you're going to be giving your opinion. That's the grammar structure you're going to use. So think about things in a very simple, straightforward way for each sentence, for each paragraph, and focus on actually answering the question clearly, and that is going to improve everything, including your grammar. So the next thing I'll say is identify what you need to do. So identify what you need to do in each sentence. So this is where my system is much better than a different teacher system who gives you the exact grammar points, the exact formula. What I do is give students flexibility and give them, I have the confidence that you have enough grammar to do well. What you need to do is you need to identify what you need to do in each sentence. So if you're giving a topic sentence, going to be quite easy, all right? The grammar is not going to be very complicated. Then you're going to have to explain. You're going to be writing an explanation. Again, not very complicated grammar. Next example. Again, not very complicated grammar. Think about the function of each sentence, identify what you need to do, and use the grammar that you're supposed to use. Very, very easy. Same in the speaking test. If the examiner asks you to talk about something in the past, what tense are you going to use? Past tense. If they ask you about how things are going to change in the future, you're going to be using future structures. Very, very easy. All right. If you are wanting to get a 7 or above, these should already have been learned. Like if you don't know how to use the past tense or how to use future structures or how to compare things or how to give your opinion or how to give an example, you shouldn't be in this group. And most of you, nearly all of you, know how to do it. I say that because I know that you have that grammar. You've learned it years ago. What you need to do is just have the confidence to identify the grammar that you need to use it as simply as possible, and that's it. That's fine. So another thing you can do is everybody makes mistakes. These are things called systematic errors. So if you are from Russia, you do not use articles when you're using Russian. Therefore, one of your problems is going to be using articles. If you are Vietnamese, you will have a problem with verb-subject agreements because it's not something you tend to use in your own language. So you need to understand how your language is affecting your English and identify those problems, and also identify the problems that are individual to you. And most people, I keep saying this, most people have 3 or 4 problems that cause 90% of their grammar mistakes. So some people, like let's take articles for example, you're going to be using articles in task 1, like in not nearly every sentence, but like majority of your sentences are going to have articles in them. If you don't know how to use articles, nearly all of your sentences in task 1 will have a mistake. What that means is you can't get over a band 6 for grammar. Very, very simple. So a person who is really bad at articles, the words a and the or no article, is going to do terribly. But if that person goes away, looks up the rules, fixes that mistake, their whole grammar performance in the IELTS test is going to improve. Now, if you fix your top 3, 4 grammar mistakes, the most common ones, how much is your grammar going to improve? It's going to improve dramatically, and that's what you need to do. So, how long have I been speaking? 20 minutes. Okay, so I hope that helps a lot of people the way they think about grammar. Think about how you think about it. And think about how the examiner thinks about it, and which one should you be using. You should think about the way that the examiner thinks about it. Now, you would not believe the amount of students I speak to every single day, and I say, why did you do this? Oh, my friend said it was a good idea to use that. My teacher, who doesn't know anything about IELTS, said that I should do that. It's like, only base what you think about the test on what the examiners think about it. That's the only thing you need to worry about. Pure and simple. So let's look at if we have any questions. Asma, this time my performance in writing was much better than the previous one. Despite this, I got the same score, 6.5. I really don't understand what went wrong. So there's 2 things you can do. If you think that you want a remark, if you're 100% sure that you did better than 6.5, go for a remark. So there's 3 things you can do. It will take a long time, actually. If you think that you're better than 6.5, and this is just something weird went wrong, just do another test. If you think that you're better than 6.5, then do another test and you'll get it. However, if you do the test again and you get 6.5, that means that what you think that you're doing and what you're actually doing are 2 different things. So lots of people think that they're better than 6.5 and think that they're doing a really good job, but they keep getting 6.5. Guess what? You're getting 6.5 because that's your level. So what you need to do if you don't get a remark or you don't do another test is you need to figure out, so grammar, vocabulary, coherence and cohesion, task achievement, which one of those things is below 7. If one of those things is below 7, then that's the thing you need to focus on. So that would be my advice, Asma. Renji, are we allowed to mention survey or research results as example sentences? Yes, you can. Can we have deductions if we try to mention these survey results in our essay? No. The only reason why they would deduct or they would say that your examples were no good is if you used like survey or research results that sounded stupid, like didn't make any sense, or sounded like you memorized or you were just making it up. Make sure that what you write sounds plausible. Okay. All right. So let me have a look in the group to see if there are any other questions. And if you do have any questions, just ask away. No, doesn't seem as if we have any more questions in the group, and doesn't seem as if we have any more questions in here. No one's asked any questions, but if you have any more questions, just post them in the group so that everyone can see them and everyone can participate and answer them, and I'll get back to you as quick as possible. And if you're watching the replay of this video, do the same. All right, hope that helped everyone with the grammar. It's no quick fix, but that is impossible. I think what some people would expect me to do is just be like a grammar book and come along and, but if you see an average grammar book, it's about that thick. So it's impossible for me to teach grammar through this medium. What you can do is teach yourself grammar, which is far more effective than a teacher teaching you. Okay, that's my final thought on grammar. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.